He is an actor, writer, director, choreographer, and part-time circus clown who currently makes his home on the north side of Chicago. His credits include appearances with the Goodman Theater, the Court Theater of Chicago, First Folio Theater, Chicago Shakespeare Theater, Mercury Theater, Drury Lane, Oak Brook, Iowa Shakespeare Festival, and many, many more. He's collaborated with the Big Apple Circus, Healthy Humor, and is a founding member of Vaudeville Chicago. A three-time Jeff Award nominee. He is also the recipient of the Tyrone Guthrie Award from the Stratford Festival of Canada and an inductee to the Illinois Shakespeare Festival's Actor Honor Roll. Please get ready to unleash another huge round of applause for your next storyteller, Kevin McKillop!
I'm born and raised here in Chicago, and despite that, I've never been much of a sports fan. Now, I'm exposed to sports. I'm old enough to remember the 1985 Chicago Bears. Well, there you go. Walter Payton, Jim McMahon, Mike Ditka, the Super Bowl Shuffle. I can quote entire verses. I was around in the 90s when Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen made the run at the NBA championship. But by and large, sports wasn't my thing. I was more drawn to the arts, which might not be a huge revelation or admission considering this is a fundraiser for a dance company, but still. My father, my brother, big sports fans. My brother has a fantasy football team. I wouldn't know where to begin. My father fills out the NCAA bracket for March Madness. My brother-in-law watches golf. Me, not so much. But then something happened. Several years ago, I got an opportunity, a big one. It was an opportunity to perform with the Stratford Shakespeare Festival of Canada. And it meant moving to Canada. Now, the Stratford Festival traditionally only takes one American actor per season, so this was a big deal for me, professionally, personally, and in every way. And before going to Canada, I got a lot of advice from a lot of people, and the single most popular piece of advice was, up in Canada, it's all about hockey up there. Well, I went, and there was a little bit of culture shock, I admit it. They've got dollar coins. They have a goose on them. They call them loonies. They have a $2 coin. They call them toonies. Well done, Canada. I used that money. I had to convert American dollars to Canadian dollars when I bought gasoline. I also had to convert liters into gallons. I nearly gave up. There were 2 NPRs. One was in French. I was fine with this. But up in Canada, honest to God, it really is all about hockey up there. When you're on your way home, there are no kids in the driveway shooting basketball on a backboard against the driveway garage door. They're all on rollerblades with hockey sticks. It's remarkable. And I got up there in February for a summer Shakespeare festival, and that's how big this place is, the largest classical repertory theater on the North American continent. So when you rehearse the summer festival, you start rehearsal in February. Troilus and Cressida. And we're leaving rehearsal one day, and one of the actors turns to me and says, a bunch of us are going to go over to the hockey game later. You want to come? And I said, yeah, rather naively and innocently. I've never been to a hockey game before. This guy couldn't believe it. He jumps onto a chair, grabs me by the shirt collar, shouts to everybody else in the rehearsal studio, hey, Chicago's never been to a hockey game before. They lost their minds. I can't even think of a relative cultural equivalent to a young man who's never been to a hockey game before in Canada. They didn't know whether to pass out or burst into flames. 2.5 hours later, I'm at this small provincial Ontario hockey rink watching the Stratford Culletons, sponsored by Culleton Brothers Steel, play some other small provincial Ontario team. Now, these are 18-year-old kids skating into each other with an intensity and an athleticism that I can't begin to describe. And I've got 17 actors, all young guys from the festival, pouring beer into me, either Molson or Labatt's, pointing out, that's a two-line pass, that's a cross-check, that's a high stick, that's the face-off circle. Now, I'm not a sports fan. I was hooked. I couldn't get enough of it. I went from newbie to rabid fan in less than a month. Suddenly it was me throwing fistfuls of popcorn at the Jumbotron at Molly Bloom's Irish Pub on Queen Street in Stratford, Ontario, while I'm watching the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I loved hockey. And it was great. And I spent a year in Canada, and then I got invited to come back. And I spent a second year in Canada, and I watched more hockey with more friends. And then, as fate would have it, I came back to the United States, back to my hometown, Chicago, just in time for the Chicago Blackhawks to make their Stanley Cup run. And I watched those games with my friends and with my brother and with my father, and it was sensational. But there was something I noticed about being a sports fan that I noticed in Canada as well. And that's the inherent tribalism that comes with rooting for a particular team, a particular sport, in a particular town, with a particular school. And how being a fan of your team somehow meant you had to hate all the others. I could never subscribe to that. I could never get behind that. I never really understood that. Why can't I just say I love the Blackhawks? Why does it have to be paired with Boston sucks? Because I didn't feel that way. And I know that it's a sport, and there has to be a winner and a loser, but saying that I hope the Hawks win doesn't necessarily mean that I have to say I hope the Philadelphia Flyers lose. I didn't understand that. And I realized that that kind of tribalism doesn't just exist in the sporting world, but it exists socially and culturally and politically now more than ever. And it upsets me because I'm not the kind of guy who hates. Never considered myself that kind of guy, at least. And in the NHL, they do this remarkable thing during the playoffs. At the end of the game, the skaters line up and they skate in opposite directions and they all high-five each other. Good game, good game, good game, good game. Just like you did when you were in Little League. And it means that it's still a game at the end of the day and everyone's cool with it. And that seemed like such a great thing, and I wish I could see more of that. And just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that at the end of a Black Lives Matter protest that the protesters and the cops should high-five each other and say, good protest, good protest, good protest. Or good insurrection, good insurrection, good insurrection. I understand the severity of that problem, but if we could eliminate some of the tribalism in sports, maybe that would trickle up into our culture, into our society, into our political discourse a little bit more, maybe? I don't know. I am about as majority as they come. I'm male. I'm white. I'm heterosexual. I'm not even Jewish. And I don't hate anyone. Someday, soon, I hope, I'm going to go to a sports bar. Someday soon, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch the Chicago Blackhawks play. Someday, I'm going to sit in that bar, watch that game, and I'm going to get a beer and a pizza. Maybe it won't be a pizza. Maybe it'll be a turkey club sandwich on wheat with a spicy mustard, and like a Havarti or a Swiss, an interesting cheese. Someday, I'll be there and I'll watch that game. And maybe, someone behind me will scream, San Jose sucks. But I really hope they don't. Thank you.
Keep it going for Kevin McKillop. Thank you.